Space was not peaceful. It had not been for a long time. The Varn Dominion moved through the stars like fire. They took planets, crushed armies, and left nothing behind but silence. No one had stopped them. No one had even slowed them down. Until... Now Commander Paul Grant stood on the bridge of the USS Aegis, a warship built to last. It was older than most ships still flying, but it had seen more battles than any other. Paul had served for years. He knew what losing felt like. He would not let it happen again. Nearby, Lieutenant Karen Bell checked her fighter. She was fast with a ship and faster with words. Smart, fearless, and always ready. She did not believe in luck, only skill and timing. Dr. Alan Cruz worked deep inside the ship. He was quiet, careful, and always thinking. He had built something new, something dangerous. No one had tested it yet, but soon they would have no choice. The Vyarn came without warning. Their ships were black towers in space. They jumped into human space near Proxima Station. Their message was simple: bow or burn. No one answered. No one ran. Commander Grant gave the order. Engines roared. Weapons powered up. The Aegis moved forward alone. Earth did not know how close the enemy was. No help was coming. This was it. The first wave hit hard. Varn fighters swarmed like insects. Karen flew straight into them, firing shots that lit up the dark. She flipped, rolled, and fired again. Metal burst behind her. Grant held the line. His crew fought from inside the ship. Missiles launched. Lasers burned. Shields cracked under pressure. Alan watched the weapon systems. He saw what it could do. He waited for the right moment. Then the Varn flagship appeared. Huge. Silent. Deadly. Grant looked at the screen and said, "We are not running." He turned the Aegis toward the enemy and fired everything they had. The battle had just begun. And for the first time in history, the Varn met someone who would not fall. The battle was loud and fast. The Aegis fired everything it had. Missiles flew. Lasers burned. Metal cracked under fire. Commander Paul Grant held tight to the controls. He did not flinch when the ship shook. He had seen worse, done worse. Lieutenant Karen Bell twisted her fighter through enemy lines. She shot down 3 Varn ships before they even knew she was there. She flew like a storm, fast, wild, and deadly. Dr. Alan Cruz watched the weapon systems. The prototype was ready. But using it now could tear the enemy apart, or blow them all up too. The Varn flagship fired back. Its weapons were heavy. One blast hit the Aegis hard. Lights flickered. Alarms screamed. Crew members fell. Grant looked at the screen. The odds were bad. Very bad. But he smiled. He said, "They think we will run. They are wrong." He gave the order. The Aegis turned hard. Engines pushed full power. They dove behind Proxima Station and vanished from view. The Vyarn thought they had won. They were wrong too. Inside the ship, Alan ran to the command deck. He told Grant, "We can use it now." Grant nodded. "Do it." Alan activated the gravity pulse cannon. Deep inside the ship, machines roared to life. Energy built fast. Shields bent. Time slowed. Outside, Karen led a final strike. She flew low over the enemy fleet and dropped mines behind her. Then she pulled up just as the first explosion lit the dark. Below, the Aegis aimed and fired. Space twisted. The pulse hit the Varn line like thunder. Enemy ships lost power. Shields dropped. Engines failed. Some exploded, some floated dead. Some crashed into each other. Grant saw the damage and said nothing. He only pointed. "Keep firing." Karen came back with what was left of her wing. They had lost 2 pilots. She clenched her jaw and said, "Next time we take more of them." The Aegis pulled away. It was damaged, low on fuel, short on time. But it had survived, and for the first time ever, the Varn had lost something. Word spread fast across human space. A single warship had stood against an empire, and it had not backed down. The Varn came back with more ships than before. Big ones. Black ones. Full of death. They thought Earth would break under the sight of them. They were wrong. Commander Paul Grant stood on the bridge of the Aegisy, watching the enemy fleet form, above the moon. He had seen fear in men's eyes before. Now he saw fire. Earth was ready, not with one warship, but with many. Freighters, mining rigs, old colony ships, all turned into fighters. Some had new weapons, some had old guns. All had human crews. Dr. Alan Cruz walked through the shipyard on Mars, checking the final upgrades on the new pulse tech. His hands shook from lack of sleep, but his mind was sharp. What he had built could change everything. Lieutenant Karen Bell trained pilots nonstop. They came from every corner of human space. Some had never flown a real fighter. Now they flew like pros. She taught them how to strike fast and vanish before the enemy could react. President Ellen Ward stood in front of the people again. "We are not just defending our home," she said. "We are showing the galaxy what humans do when backed into a corner." The battle began near the moon. Humans did not wait for the Varn to land. They went up to meet them. Grant led the charge. The Aegis dove into enemy lines with pulse cannons blazing. Shields failed. Ships exploded. Chaos spread. Karen and her wing flew low through the wreckage. They dropped mines, hit engines, and pulled out before the Varn could target them. Alan's tech worked better than expected. 3 more ships had it now. Each blast tore through enemy formations. The Varn fought hard. They fired everything they had. But humans kept coming, wave after wave, ship after ship. And for the first time in their history, the Varn felt something they did not know existed. Fear. One of their command vessels fell. Then another. Grant looked at the screen and said, "This is not the end. This is just the start." And across human space, billions watched and believed. They were not just surviving. They were winning. And the Varn were learning a hard truth. Humans do not stop. The Varn had lost too much. Their leaders met in secret. They knew they could not win if humans kept fighting like this. They sent one last offer to Earth. Surrender now, and some cities would be spared. President Ellen Ward did not even reply. Instead, she gave the order. End this. Commander Paul Grant stood on the bridge of the Aegisy, looking at the largest battle ever seen in human history. Ships filled space like stars. Human, Lyran, Koran, all fighting together. The Varn flagship, the Korvath Prime, hovered above, Earth like a storm waiting to break. Grant pointed at it and said, "That's our target." Lieutenant Karen Bell led the fighter wave. She flew straight into enemy fire, dropping mines behind her. Explosions lit up space. Ships fell like stones. Dr. Alan Cruz activated the final pulse weapon. It was bigger than the others. Built inside a captured Varn station, it could collapse entire fleets in seconds. He looked at the screen and whispered, "This changes everything." Grant led the Aegis through the chaos. His ship was damaged. His crew was tired, but he never slowed down. Karen hit the Korvath Prime from below. Her wing was gone. Only she made it through. She fired everything she had into the main reactor. Inside the ship, alarms screamed. Then Alan fired the pulse. Space twisted. Shields failed. Engines died. Ships vanished in waves of light. The Korvath Prime exploded first, then the rest of the Varn fleet followed. Silence fell over the sky. The Varn were broken. In the days that followed, their remaining forces surrendered. Their empire cracked. Their leaders disappeared. Earth had won. Not by luck, not by chance, but because one warship stood its ground, and behind it an entire species rose to fight. Now across the galaxy, every alien race knew one truth. Never attack Earth, because when you mess with humans, you lose. News spread fast. The Aegis had fought back. The Varn had lost ships. For the first time ever, they had been hurt. On Earth, people watched the reports with wide eyes. They had expected death. Instead, they got hope. Commander Paul Grant stood on the bridge as the ship limped toward Mars. The Aegis was damaged. Smoke filled parts of the lower decks. Crew members moved fast to fix what they could. Lieutenant Karen Bell walked through the halls. She was tired, her suit was torn. 2 of her pilots were gone. She said nothing. She only kept moving. Dr. Alan Cruz studied the data from the gravity pulse cannon. It had worked better than he hoped, but he knew the Varn would come back, stronger, faster, angrier. They had no choice. President Ellen Ward spoke to the world. Her voice was calm, but her message was fire. The Vyarn think we are weak, she said. They think we will fall like the others. They are wrong. She called for full war mobilization. Factories began building weapons. Old freighters were turned into fighters. Civilians volunteered by the thousands. Some called it madness. Others called it courage. Grant knew it was something else. It was duty. He stood in front of his crew and said, "We bought time. Now we use it." Karen trained new pilots every day. She taught them how to fly like ghosts. Unseen, unpredictable, deadly. Alan worked nonstop. He improved the gravity pulse system. Soon, other ships would carry it, too. Back in space, the Varn regrouped. Their leaders were furious. They sent a new fleet, not just big, not just strong, but filled with hate. But this time, Earth was ready. Not fully, not perfectly, but ready enough. And when the Varn came again, they would find more than one warship, waiting. They would find an entire species that refused to be conquered, and they would learn the truth. Humans do not run. They fight, no matter the cost.